Hey guys, it's Cody Jones with Jangus Genetics LLC. I'm out here in the pasture tonight, and the girls would like to be moved, but they're going to be moved out of here tomorrow. So they're going to be moved out of here tomorrow, and that'll make them happy. So it is February 6th. It's been incredible weather for grazing. We had about two really hard weeks. We had about 2 really hard weeks here at the beginning of January where it got to -40 wind chills. And so that was really been a challenge. The water tank I want to move to tomorrow still has a layer of probably 4 or 5 inches of ice on it. So I'll have to bust the ice on that one. But it's been a learning experience. But one of the things I want to talk to you about today is something that I would advise you to do if you're coming in to agriculture, taking over, helping out with an operation, taking over management of an operation, control of an operation, or starting your own operation. And it's one of the biggest things that you can do as a grass farmer, and that is to calve in sync with nature. And I've said it before on this YouTube videos, but I want to kind of shed a little bit more light on it. I'm always learning and always reading, and I've heard that cows' nutritional needs, intake needs, can increase up to 60% right around that calving period. So, a month before a cow's working up to calving, her nutritional needs just spike incredibly because she's finishing developing that calf. She's putting a lot of energy, a lot of nutrients into developing that calf. And then right after she has that calf, then her nutrient increases again, because not only is she trying to milk enough to feed that calf well, she's trying to have enough energy. And especially if they're lacking in body condition, you've got to get that body condition up before calving, or you have to feed them a lot. They need an incredible amount of nutrition to be able to get bred back while they're milking. And if you have a young cow that's less than 3 or 4 years old, they're growing. A 2-year-old, they're going to be losing teeth. They're going to be replacing baby teeth. So there's a lot of challenges on a young cow. And if you don't have pasture, green, nutritious, growing pasture, you are going to have to supplement that difference. And that's going to come from nowhere other than directly out of your own pocketbook. So you're going to either have to sell more cows, figure out a way to better market your calves, or it's got to come from somewhere. You got to have an off-farm job, right? So it also requires a lot of infrastructure. If you're calving in sync with nature, so that's calving in sync with your forage side. Here in Missouri, from my experience, mostly around the world, springtime is going to be we call it the spring flush here. Hey, quit beating up on my four-wheeler. So calving in sync with your spring flush is what most people are going to tell you to do. And in most places, that's the best way to do it. Here in the spring, after we've had a long fall and winter rest from the growing season, our grass warms up, the days are getting longer, and the grass just spikes. We have oodles and oodles of grass here. And normally you want to hit your calving season right about that time. So maybe a little bit after you start getting green grass in the spring, and then you have that flush right as that calf is coming. It's going to be warm, it's going to be sunny. Most calves are made and designed and bred in nature to be calved somewhere around that 70-degree mark is what these Angus cows were kind of bred for. You want it to be warm, you want your days to be warm, you want that calf not to have to suffer in the weather. We're coming to that in a minute. But the spring flush, you're calving on that spring flush. And then that cow has plenty of nutrition to get bred back, to feed that calf, and to go on and move on into the later summer. They're going to hit a peak in there somewhere around 3, 4, 5 months, and then their nutrition value goes down. They're going to be able to put on fat again and get ready for the fall. So in Missouri here, we're in the fescue belt. This is Kentucky 31 fescue, and it is endophyte infected. And an endophyte is just a fungus that gets in your fescue, and it gives the cattle basically a low-grade fever. It gives the cattle basically a low-grade fever all summer. So it's mainly, especially in the seed heads, but in the tip of the plant and the base of the plant if you're grazing too low. So there's things we could do to mitigate that. But what I've found is fall calving, September, October, after we get past the extreme heats of summer is working really well for me. For me also, it's a good marketing opportunity. The prices in the spring on a weaning age calf work really well. So it's something to think about. You have to decide what's going to work for you. I know a lot of people still like that spring calving around here, and that works just fine. But either way, we are hitting in the fall here. Our fescue is really good in the wintertime. It's one of the best one of the best stockpiling forages you can find in the world, because it loses that endophyte after it freezes pretty well. So, and it holds its nutrition, its energy, its protein on into the winter. So this is what's working for me. I've found that even going as late as November, December is probably a little too late for calving. Just not having enough oomph in this grass. If I'm not feeding hay or not supplementing, you get into kind of same issues. But we do get a fall flush. You don't hear many people talk about it, but stockpile season starts about August 1st. And I'd say, if I had to guess, rough estimate from my experience here is you probably get 60% of your forage done in Missouri growth before August 1st. And then after August 1st, you probably get 30 to 40%. I'd say that's a reasonable estimate. So I'm trying to match my fall calving herd around that time of that fall onset of grass, that fall flush, fall growth, August, September, October. And then that way I've peaked on in before January, before it gets really cold here in Missouri. So however it works for you, figure it out, but match your forage needs, your nutritional needs for your cows with your flushes, with your grass growth, your peak times. And you can look up grazing, you can look up the forage cycle in your area. That's a valuable thing to do. And it's gonna save you a lot of money. So what else does it do when you calve in sync with nature? Because there's a lot of things that it does besides save you money just from nutritional standpoint. You're not having to feed high energy, high protein, lots of extra hay, again, up to 60% increase around that 3 to 4 months around that calving time. But it also is going to keep you from having to calve in a barn. So I live in a row crop heavy area. My family row crops, we put up hay, they do cattle. And so what a lot of people do, especially in these row crop areas, is they say, I don't want to mess with cattle while we're dealing with row crops. So we'll just calve them. Very common, even outside the row crop area. Calving in January, February, March. Most people around here are calving in that February, March kind of time. Hopefully winter's a little bit, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. I've seen, negative 20 wind chills in February, and calves just aren't designed for that. So what happens? You either kill a bunch of calves. I had a January, so I'll talk about my experiences. I had a train wreck the first year that I bought a big expensive bull, little expensive bull actually, he wasn't very big. I kicked him out, bred him in April. They sold him to me, the sale was in April. I bought him, I turned him out with 30 heifers, like April 6th. Because, why would I keep this $8,000 bull away from my heifers and where he could get hurt or get out or something crazy? So I just kicked him right out there and let him go to work. Well, that January, the 15 heifers that had cycled, or 16 heifers, whatever it was, dropped calves. And it was 80 degrees when they dropped the calves. A week later, it was 70 degrees and rainy. 2 days after that, it was an inch of ice. Then it was negative 10 wind chill. And then it was back up in the 50s for 2 weeks where it was wet. And I killed a bunch of calves from pneumonia. I killed a bunch of calves from cattle getting around them in the bale rings and trampling them. And it was just a train wreck. I think I raised, even the calves that I did raise, because I doctored them all. It was a train wreck. It was horrible. So even the ones that I doctored, they took an extra year to really get back in cycle, in sync with their brothers and sisters that were born later in the year. And it was crazy. I don't know, I'm sure there's some science behind that, and that would be a really cool study. If you're unfortunate enough to have that kind of experience. But anyway, it was a total train wreck. I said I'd never do it again. Every year since then, I've had like 4 or 5 calves. In January, I got 3 back there looking at me. Oops. Easy, girls. Hey, little buddy. Hey. But but we're limiting that. I'm done doing it. It's horrible. Even the calves I had coming in December this year they just don't perform as well. They have more health problems in the winter. They're not as big at weaning time, and pulling the bulls earlier is going to save me a lot of stress. Pulling the bulls earlier is going to save me a lot of stress on that too. So what do they do if you're calving in February, March, January, February, March? The best thing to do, the best situation, is to build an expensive facility that you can keep those cattle inside. If you already have a barn or something like that, a lot of these guys used to be hog farmers, and the hog markets crashed, so or hoop buildings or whatever. Everybody's trying to get their cattle inside to get them calving. Folks, you don't have to do that. You can calve them right out here on green grass. The sheep are the same way. I used to calve my sheep in a barn. I killed 3/4 of them. We had 2-inch hail one day, and it's just a horrible experience. And I've had some really bad train wrecks, and I want to share this so that you don't have those same train wrecks. So calve them when they can't, or just match your cycle to nature. It just makes everything work easier. The animals come out healthier. They're ready to go. The temperatures are going to be better. They're going to grow faster. The cows are going to be cheaper to maintain. They're going to be, more vigorous out in the sunshine. Just something about sunshine. My dad used to say, we're solar powered, and I think there's a lot to that. So calving on green grass and sunshine just makes sense. It's a lot less capital intensive. Building those barns, using the tractors, the skid loaders, all the other things that we have to do to put out that feed that we had to purchase and had to sell more calves and work off farm and keep our wives in town. I do that, but we're working towards it. So all these things add up, and being able to do it out on green grass, to me as a grass farmer, is just the cheapest, most efficient way to do it. Another thing is it's just the cheapest, most efficient way to do it. I hope that you guys can learn from my mistakes, especially my train wrecks. It's hard to talk about, it's hard to share, but calving in January, February, March, anytime that you can get 4 inches of snow, 1 inch of ice, it's just absolutely miserable, not only on you as a farmer and your emotional state and your physical state, but also on those animals. And my experience is just don't do it, and you don't have as many problems when you quit doing this stuff. Figure out what nature did, try to mimic it as best as possible while still making a profit, and go from there. That's what I recommend. I hope you guys like this video. I hope you learned something from it. If you get something from it, like, subscribe, follow for more, leave a comment down below, and we'll get some more videos. I'm gonna get over here before these girls finish off my four-wheeler. You guys have a good one.